Hello, bonjour, здравствуйте, assalamu alaikum, guten tag, hola, and a big hello and warm welcome to the Knitters Party podcast. Today we've got a very special episode. I'm going to show you guys my yarn haul. I have been buying yarn like a madwoman in preparation for my upcoming trip to Cairo, Egypt, where I will be spending 6 to 8 months in Egypt, doing a lot of different things, but definitely I hope to be knitting a whole lot while I'm there. So my name is Megan. I'm the host of the Knitters Party podcast. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Meg311yo. You can also find my Ravelry group online by searching for the Knitters Party podcast. And I just want to welcome you to this very special edition of my Egypt yarn haul. So please stick with me. I'm actually going to be breaking this down into two different sections. The first section is going to be your indie dyed yarns that I've purchased either at a local yarn store, or I actually did receive one or two of them online, but this is going to be your indie dyed, definitely high quality, more expensive yarns. The second half of this podcast is going to be my online orders that I have fulfilled from knitpicks.com, as well as I have a big Cascade order that I bought a sweater's quantity of that I'm going to show you. So if you want to stick with me through the first part, the second part, whatever you like, this is just going to be a different format today, so I hope you enjoy it. First of all, I'm not drinking a beer because it's sort of a special edition and, you know, I've got plans for the day. I'm drinking Diet Ruby Red Squirt. It is delicious, thirst quenching, and whatever, non-alcoholic for today. So cheers, let's get into it. All right. Before we get into the yarn haul, I just want to actually show you a couple of my recent finished objects just because I am actually gifting these to a couple lucky recipients, a couple of my and my husband's bestest friends who are having a birthday party tonight for the husband, Vadim. So our best friends, their names are Rose and Vadim. They're super knit-worthy people. They are just salt of the earth, some of the nicest, most kind, generous, warm-hearted people that I know, and I couldn't think of anyone better to knit for than them. And so Vadim is having a birthday party today, and I'm sitting there talking to my mom going, what on earth do I get for a guy? I have no idea. My husband didn't have any, super great ideas either. And so I figured, why don't I knit him a hat? We're in Michigan. We definitely get cold winters, cold autumns, although today is about 80 degrees and windy, so I am definitely wearing short sleeves, not anticipating anything cold going on. But anyway, let's get into it. I made for him a hat. This pattern is the Graham hat by Jennifer Adams. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. It is written for a size large or extra large, or a medium or a large. I decided to make him the large size, and so because it's a free pattern, I can sort of give you the details of it. I was shocked. First of all, it's a worsted weight pattern. Great. So I picked up some Knit Picks Brava worsted. This is in the Solstice Heather colorway. So it's a really deep navy blue. It's showing up as a very bright blue, but this is actually quite a dark blue. So I hope I'll be able to edit it to make the right color. But this is the pattern for the body of the hat is called a broken rib stitch. So on one round, you knit around. The other round, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, one by one rib. The following round, knit everything. Then the next round, knit, purl, knit, purl. Obviously, you can memorize it in 1 second, but it just makes a little bit of interest and detail on the body of the hat. The bottom is just a 1 by 1 rib, nice 3.5 inch cuff here for the bottom, and I decided to add a pom-pom because I figured that they would like it. Now the nice thing about this hat is that it can either be worn sort of slouchy, like so, and I actually like it a lot as a slouchy hat, or when it gets a little bit colder, you can fold the brim over and it pretty much becomes a fitted winter hat. So I think it's nice and versatile. I figured it was a good pattern for a guy. The Graham pattern on Ravelry does have a guy as their main model for the pattern itself, and so I figured that it was perfect. So lovely hat. This is for my good friend Vadim. You are so knit-worthy, and we love you guys. The problem is, obviously I know Vadim through his wife, who is, my bestest friend, Rose. And so I was sitting here knitting for Vadim. I had blocked this hat. I washed it. Even though it's 100% acrylic, I washed it in like a nice wool wash, so it's got a lavender scent. It's a nice hat. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, I cannot show up with a hand knit item for Vadim and have nothing for Rose. So I decided to make her a hat as well. And so I made the exact same pattern. This is not out of Knit Picks. I picked this up at the our local Michael's shop. This is Red Heart with Love in their boysenberry colorway. And I made an identical hat. So now they're going to have his and hers winter hats. I think it's absolutely adorable, and I know that she is going to love it. We met them for lunch about a week and a half ago, and we went to the mall, just, you know, had some lunch at a local restaurant, and, you know, we're walking around the mall afterwards, and we go into this accessories store. I think it's called Charles and Charlie or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, Rose and I are just looking at all the different scarves and shawls and things like that. And that's when I got the idea that I wanted to knit something for her. And so she picked out something that was this exact color. It's like the colorway is called Boysenberry. It's a perfect dark fuchsia color. So it looks pretty purple on here, but it's a proper pink, you know, pinky purple fuchsia color. So anyway, I knit Vadim's hat. I decided to knit Rose a hat as well. And so I just had to go to the craft store. The problem is I purchased, you know, Red Heart with Love, which is definitely an Aran weight yarn. So this hat is knit in a proper worsted. The stitch count worked. It's a 96 stitch hat, which I thought was a lot, but for a guy, it actually looks about the right size. This hat I cast on with 96 stitches, and it was just gigantic. It looked like it could fit over, you know, a keg or something. There I go, thinking about beer again. But it was just absolutely huge. So I realized that I had to scale down this operation. And because it's a pretty easy hat, there's the decreases, there's 5 of them. So I knew that as long as I would keep with a multiple of 5, I'd be able to, you know, adapt this pattern to fit her, no problem. So I actually cast on 20 fewer stitches for this hat than I did for this. So this is a 96 stitch hat. This is a 76 stitch hat, but even just looking at the finished blocked product, you can see the stitches so much more clearly in this one than this one. I actually think it's perfect because a guy, you don't want a ton of detail, you know, the simpler the better in my opinion for men's knits. So anyway, this is a nice tight gauge, and this one you can see the definition a little bit, and I know my friend is just going to love it. So we are actually heading off to their birthday party today, so I figured that I wanted to show these on my podcast just one last time before they head off, and I won't be able to show them on my next episode's finished objects. So these each took a day and a half, like maybe 5 or 6 hours of knitting total. I made a nice pom-pom for both of them, and I really know that they're going to love it. So happy birthday, Vadim. Rose, you're getting a matching hat, and I hope that, Vadim, you're not offended that I'm giving your wife a gift on your birthday. So either way, you guys are both knitworthy people, and I love you so much. All right, on to my yarn haul. This was an interesting episode to plan because I have a nice selection of indie dyed yarn as well as, you know, your big name brands that I have sweater quantities of, etc. And I was looking through all my yarns and I realized that I have projects for some, but not projects for others. So as I go through these yarns, I'm going to go through them chronologically, so in order of when I received them, because I've been sort of holding back my yarn purchases for the last 3 months that I've been back in the United States, because I've been, you know, here and there picking up a skein or two, you know, nothing too exciting. And so I wanted to just put them all together in a yarn haul video to show you guys what I am up to. So let's get into it. And I'm going to start with a yarn that you actually have seen already, but it was a long, long time ago, about 6 months back, maybe episode 3 or 4. And the problem is that I never, ever used up this yarn. So this yarn is Juniper Moon Farms in the Harriet Fine. This is a 75% alpaca, 25% polyamide, so a nylon. And the colorway is called Pampa Sunrise, I'm sorry. This is an electric neon yellow-green. It's actually showing up pretty good on here. And I absolutely love it. It's got a beautiful halo, a really nice twist to it. And I am sort of planning on making this into a, maybe some fingerless mitts, maybe like a nice little shawl, but it is a little bit scratchy. I don't want to say scratchy because it's a very soft yarn, but the halo would probably be very warm and it might irritate my neck up here. So I'm thinking I might make this into something that is not worn against the neck. However, I absolutely love this. It's a fingering weight yarn, and I purchased this in Austin, Texas at the Hill County Weavers yarn shop out there. I've used pretty much everything else that I purchased in that same one, but I wanted to, save this for something special, but I haven't found the right pattern yet. So one skein of fingering weight yarn, your standard, 461 yards. Not sure what to do with it, but I will find something, darn it, because I absolutely love this yarn. The next one that I'm going to show you is still a very, very special skein of yarn that was gifted to me so generously by my lady gal pal Jaden of the Purl Up and Dye podcast. She is a hand dyer. She is co-owner of this company right here, Midnight Cravings, and she gifted me this. It's a sport weight yarn. I want to say, 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. The colorway is, it's a party after all. She hand dyed this skein of yarn for me. The background is a really beautiful robin egg blue with speckles of hot green and pink, a little bit of yellows and oranges, just little speckled yarns. And actually, this was my very first skein of speckled yarn, so it is still incredibly special to me today. I still have not found that perfect pattern, but this is absolutely squishy soft, so I'm thinking I do want to wear this next to the skin. So I'm thinking maybe a hat, maybe a nice lightweight shawl or shawlette, or I'm not exactly sure, maybe a headband of some sort. I want to make something that I will wear all the time out of this. And I don't know if I will wear a hat as often as I would wear a shawl, but I'm still deciding, and I will not make anything brash. I will not make any brash decisions about this yarn because this is incredibly special, absolutely stunning color, especially like against my skin with my hair. I don't know what to do with it yet, but I am bringing this to Egypt and I will find the right pattern. It is a sport weight yarn and there are 274 yards. And this is hand dyed in Canada. I do love Canadian yarn. This Harriet Farms is American, I want to say. It doesn't matter. Made in Peru. Oh, I apologize. This is a Peruvian yarn. Anyway, can't wait to do something with this yarn. Can't wait to do something with this yarn. And these are ones that I am just bringing to Egypt with no specific pattern in mind, but I cannot wait to do something with it. The next one I'm going to show you is a yarn that I purchased in Asheville, North Carolina. This one is called Pearl's Yarn Emporium. That's the name of the shop where I purchased this skein. And this is Adventure Yarns in the colorway Elvish Mountain Pass. It is made with 80% wool and 20% nylon. It claims to be a fingering weight yarn, I'm sorry, but this is definitely more of a sport weight. So it's a heavy fingering, if a fingering at all. I could easily adopt this for a sport weight, possibly even a DK. I presume it's been pre-washed because it is so fluffy and bulky. So I'm wondering that if I wash this again, will it be even plumper than it is? Because I'm going to do something with this. How many yards are in here? There's a million. This thing is a gigantic, huge skein of yarn. 410 yards. That's actually not so many. But I could, I'm not sure what to do with this, but it's got really beautiful dark greens, like a forest green into a Kelly green, an aquamarine blue into a beautiful sky blue. I've got a lovely pop of purple in there. This is an absolute dream skein, and I don't know what to do with it. So I'm going to bring it to Egypt. Hopefully I'll find a nice pattern to use for it, but I can't decide what to make out of it. Because it is so variegated, and you know me, I sort of stick to maybe tonal or heathered yarns. I like consistency in my yarn, so I'm not sure what to make with something that is so varied in color that who knows how it would turn out. So maybe socks would be a great idea. It is a sock yarn, 80-20, so I'll probably knit some fun socks out of this, but I'm just going to bring it and see what I make. It's so funny because I was planning for this episode and I realized that my Ravelry queue has been just filling up with patterns that I know I'm going to knit, patterns that I've purchased the yarn for, everything. I made special orders just so I could, fill the orders for this project. And then I'm looking through my stash and I realize I have all these single skeins where I don't know what to do with it. So, this brings me, if you haven't watched my episode, I want to say 2 episodes ago, episode 12 or 13, I mentioned that on Ravelry I had created a Ravelry bundle for single skein of fingering projects. And that's because if you're anything like me, wherever you go, you will pick up a skein of yarn. It doesn't matter if you spent 3 seconds in a store while your friends are waiting for you at the Starbucks next door, you will pick up a skein of yarn because you are there and you're in a city and you want a skein of yarn to memorialize that you were in this place. So I've got all these single skeins of fingering yarn and not a lot of projects to do. So I have created a Ravelry bundle for 1 skein of fingering weight yarn, basically up to about 410 to 450 yards of fingering weight yarn. So there are socks and fingerless mitts and shawlettes and hats and all sorts of fun, small accessories. But I just hope that maybe, my yarn struggles will help somebody else find the right project. So we'll see. I hope you guys like it. If you want to look at it, maybe I'll put a link down below for my Ravelry bundle for 1 skein fingering weight projects. That's all hard to keep track of. All right, the next one I'm going to show you is a very unique yarn. Now that I picked it up, this was very much so one of those yarns where I was with a group of friends in Toronto, Ontario, and we were just walking down the road. We had just had lunch and we were waiting for, actually my friend took me to a pole dancing stripper class for like a fitness class. It was really fun actually. But after lunch, but before this class, all of us are just walking around and it was her and her husband and me and my husband walking around Toronto. And I see this yarn shop and I realized I had to walk in and, pick up a skein of yarn. So they were all bored out of their minds. And so I just beeline to the cotton because I know that that's what I'm using a lot of these days, and I wanted to pick out a nice, sage green cotton yarn that I could use for any number of projects. And so I picked this up. I didn't realize until later that this is handmade in Greece. This yarn is butterfly mercerized cotton. It is a DK weight cotton, 249 yards, and it is handmade in Greece. And I absolutely love that. I mean, you guys know I love travel, obviously. So I've had yarn from Greece and Turkey and Peru and Kuwait. I've had yarn from all sorts of different places, but this is my first one from Greece. So it's like a chainette twist. So it's not twisted, it's a chainette, 100% mercerized cotton. It's not super soft right now, but I know that it will get softer once I wash it a couple of times. So I have decided that this is going to become a baby knit. So I'm not sure exactly which one. I have pegged it for the Newborn Baby Onesie by Lynn Christie. It's a nice DK weight baby onesie. It's got all sorts of cute eyelets in it. It's a perfect gender neutral, baby thing. This green is absolutely perfect. And I hope that, the lucky recipient will like it. I could probably make 2 or 3 out of it. 249 yards is a lot for a baby project. So we'll find out what exactly I do, but I'll keep you guys updated. All I know is that this is coming to Egypt with me, and it's a really fun yarn. I can't wait to see what I make with it. So that's that in a beautiful sage green color. It doesn't have some of these don't have colorway names. They might just be, a number or something. So if it's just a number, I'm not going to tell you. So the next thing that I purchased, and actually, let me grab my one other skein of yarn here as well. I went to Canada, as you have known by the last couple of episodes. I went to Edmonton, Alberta, where my in-laws are, and while we were there, we went to River City Yarns. You definitely know River City Yarns. The grocery girls can't stop talking about it. It's like the biggest and best yarn store in Edmonton, Alberta. They have a huge online yarn store, and they also just started their very own podcast as well. I believe it's called River City Knits Podcast. Anyway, River City Yarns, I ended up picking out several skeins of just absolutely beautiful yarn. I'm going to start with this first one because you've already seen my project in my works in progress. This is Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock in the colorway Grape Jelly. Again, it's not showing up very well, but for reference, here's this boysenberry colored. Oh my God, I do not understand how these look so different. They're almost the exact same color, but somehow the yarn or the dye is not showing up on camera. This is very much a grape jelly colorway. It looks just like grape jelly. So a hot purple, beautiful, and this is currently on my needles as the Britannia sweater by Tin Can Knits. But I picked up 3 skeins of this, which I thought was enough for a sweater, but it might not be, so whatever. But go check out my works in progress from my last episode if you're interested to see this knit up on the needles, but it's absolutely stunning. And this is a sock yarn, so 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. Picked up a sweater's quantity, 3 skeins of this yarn, but this was absolutely fabulous from River City Yarns in Edmonton, Alberta. But while I was there, I picked out a couple of single skeins as well. I'm gonna leave this one for last because it's my favorite. I'm gonna start with this one. This, my lovelies, is the yarns of Richard DeVries 100% superwash merino in a fingering weight yarn. The colorway is patina. Oh, you can see the high twist on there. This yarn is stunning. It is absolutely beautiful. It's a brilliant pumpkin orange color, high twist. There are only 225 yards, 206 meters. It's made in Canada. And these do have a project in mind. I am going to be making fingerless mitts. The name of the pattern is the Kujailin Fingerless Mitts by Tina Ku. So considering that orange is my favorite color, I was really happy to pick out a beautiful orange that is neither gaudy nor scratchy or anything like that. I just feel like this is the absolute perfect yarn for anything I wanted to make. So I was really happy to see it. Also purchased from River City Yarns in Edmonton, Alberta. Oh, doesn't that just look great on my hair and against my skin? This like pumpkin color is literally my exact favorite color in the whole wide world. So absolutely beautiful, burnt orange. Can't wait to knit it up. Again, it's going to Egypt with me, and I will keep you all updated as I knit with this. The last one that I purchased in Edmonton from River City Yarns is this lovely skein of Ancient Arts yarn. This is 100% BFL Blueface Leicester wool in a 4-ply fingering sock, 437 yards, and the colorway is Alpine Meadows. And so this is a really incredible mix of greens and purples, and it is like acid dyed, absolutely beautiful. You've got all the way down to like a deep eggplant plum colored purple, all the way into like an indigo blue, into like a forest green, into more of like an acid yellow green. Oh my God, this is absolutely beautiful. And this right here, let me see if I've got any, I was thinking about what was I going to make with this. I was literally planning this podcast episode and I was like, what could I see myself knitting with this? And I said, obviously those have to be socks. You know, this is a sock yarn, beautiful variegation, but I am afraid of variegated yarns. And so I chose the perfect pattern for this. The pattern is the Cobble Socks by designer Ruth Brash. And I actually heard about this when I was watching her podcast, Coffee, Yarn, and Dinosaurs. She is not only a knitwear designer, she's also a podcaster. She may also dye her own yarn. I've only seen a couple episodes, but I actually followed her on Instagram for a long time as Everyday Yarn Works, and I'm actually currently test knitting a sock project for her. So once I realized that I was test knitting for her, I started watching her podcast, and she designed a sock pattern called the Cobble Socks. And she said that it's specifically for, you know, variegated yarns where you're not sure how the colors are going to play together. So The pattern itself has, it looks like you float the yarn on certain rows so that, you know, a little strand is carried into the front. Maybe it's like a slip stitch PSSO sort of thing. So you get these horizontal stitches in there. But she said, you know, as a rough quote, it allows every little piece of your yarn to really shine because it'll be in the front, in the foreground, and it is absolutely beautiful like this. Now, when I bought this yarn, I was absolutely excited because I was looking for a green and purple yarn. Also because my husband, you know how we love our amigurumi, our little plushies. He has been asking me for a green and purple penguin for years now. And it was low on the priority list until we found this green and purple yarn. And he said, "Oh, Megan, that's Lovecraft. That's going to be our green and purple penguin, and we're going to name him Lovecraft, okay?" And I said, "All right, good. We're going to name him Lovecraft." So this green and purple yarn has two projects. I'm going to do some maybe short mid-calf ankle socks in the cobble socks color. The cobble socks pattern, but we're also going to be making a penguin out of it. Now, I unwrap this skein because I want to show you something that I didn't realize I needed to look for in variegated yarns, but now I am more than aware. This is the front of the yarn. Saturated colors, absolutely beautiful. You can tell there's not going to pool or repeat or anything. However, if you look at the underside of the yarn, it's like the dye hasn't gone all the way through. There are these big patches where it's barely touched, or if the color is there, you know, it's mild compared to the other side, which is much darker. You know, you've got these areas where there's no saturation, where on the other side, you know, it's a nice bright color. So I'm really a little bit worried that when I knit this up, I just want to make sure that my socks are going to be the same right and left. I want to make sure that my penguin is going to be very saturated. And so I don't know what I'm going to do about the fact that the inside of this yarn is not nearly as saturated as the outside. So I'm a little bit upset on that. I will definitely have to look out for that next time I buy yarn. If it's variegated, I want to unravel it. I want to make sure that the underside is dyed as much as the outside of it. I know that it's, I guess, common practice to have, you know, you just dye one side of the yarn and you don't worry about the other one. It just seems like a cop-out to me, you know, because if you are maybe new at this like I am, you're going to, I guess, end up with yarn that you weren't expecting because, I don't know, I just think it's a cop-out, and I wish that yarn designers would be a little bit more consistent with dyeing all sides of the yarn so that if you're buying this for a sweater or something, the outside of the yarn is all going to come up on one side of the cake when you wind it up, and then the inside of the yarn with all the less color is going to be the next part. So if you're making socks, your right sock is going to have tons of saturated color, your left sock is going to be left in the dark. So I'm a little upset, but I guess this is totally common practice and maybe I have no reason to be upset. Anyway, I can't wait to knit with it. I cannot wait to bring it to Egypt and wind it up. I want to see what it looks like in a cake. And if I do notice that the outside is darker than the inside in my cake, maybe I'll knit my penguin first, because the penguin is most important. At the end of the day, socks will die, socks will get holes, and I'll end up throwing them out. But a penguin is forever. And that's the truth right there. So that's that. Those are the end of my purchases from River City Yarns, and I have 2 more skeins of my, you know, local indie dyed local yarn store yarn. And this first one, I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna do this one first. This yarn is Ritratto Charles collection. No colorway, but it's a really nice fingering. Ooh, the glitter is coming up very well. It's a sparkly yarn. You can tell that there's just a twist of sparkle yarn intertwined with this. It looks like a long variegated yarn between this orange color and this hot pink color. It's really pretty. I initially bought it with this yarn, which is Cascade North Shore in the color olive green. These are both from the store Sticks and Strings in Lansing, Michigan. This one is actually 100% acrylic, and I don't want to believe it. This yarn is fabulous. It's so soft. The colorway is pretty accurate. It's like a beautiful, you know, bright green. And I thought that these two sort of looked good together, and so I was in a rush. I just picked them up. I realized that this one is definitely more of a sport or DK weight yarn, whereas this one is really much more fingering. This one's 100% acrylic, and this one is a huge mix. 28% mohair, 53% viscose, 10% nylon, and 9% polyester. Super random collection of fibers, but this one's acrylic, this one is who knows what, a mutt. But I thought they went nice together in the store, and I was going to make some socks out of it. Now I realize that they are two different weights, two different fiber contents. They will definitely not work together, and so I have to figure out a plan for both of these. Now this Cascade, first of all, I had no idea that Cascade made an acrylic yarn line. I've seen their 220 superwash wool, I've seen their 220 cotton, Pima cotton, and I love that. That's my go-to all the time. Oh no, I'm not gonna be able to get this label back on. But I had no idea that they had an acrylic line. And so when I was at this yarn store in Lansing, Michigan, I picked this up and I was so impressed. I thought it was cotton at first. I thought it was Pima cotton. It doesn't exactly feel like cotton, but it feels like bamboo or like viscose of some sort. It feels like a plant fiber, like a natural plant fiber. And I come to find out it's acrylic. So this is premium acrylic. If you're looking for an acrylic yarn, baby projects, you know, an affordable cardigan or something like that, I would definitely recommend Cascade North Shore. I paid, I guess, $6.60 for this in the yarn store, and this is 220 yards, okay, good old Cascade, 220 yards and 100 grams of premium acrylic yarn. So this one, on the other hand, is a much smaller quantity. It looks like 180 meters, 198 yards. Don't know what to do with it. To be honest, I don't even know if I like it anymore. Not my color palette, but I bought it specifically because it was out of my comfort range. Pink is never my favorite yarn color. Purples, sure. Reds, all day, but I've never really loved pink yarn. So we'll find out what goes with it. So those are all of my single skeins that I purchased either at a local yarn shop or online. Like I said, the one Midnight Cravings was an online vendor, but she's an Etsy dyer. I mean, that's as indie dyed as it gets. So that is section 1 of my podcast. Moving on to section 2 of the podcast, or of the yarn haul episode, this is going to be my online purchases with specific projects in mind. Mostly sweater quantities, but this is a large yarn haul from Knit Picks, as well as one, smaller one from an online retailer. I think I purchased it at like Webs. I just got a bunch of Cascade for a project in mind. But this is literally a box that I received. I received several of these, a couple of them. It is currently filled with yarn that I'm going to talk about. This is just the overflow. So I'm going to show you individual skeins of what I purchased, but I'm going to let you know how many of each skein I have for what project it is and everything like that. So let's get started. The first one that I want to talk about, the first sort of section, is going to be my Knit Picks. This is going to be the most affordable one. Ooh, I got a hair in my mouth. It's yarn. So the first section of this Knit Picks yarn haul is going to be the affordable Knit Picks yarn that I got, and this is for, like, you'll see. So let's start off with this beautiful palette of yarns right here. This is Knit Picks Brava Worsted in the colorways white, dove heather, cobblestone heather, and black. And this is going to be a baby blanket for, again, the person in my life who's having a baby. They are very modern and contemporary with their looks, and so they wanted specifically a totally neutral colored baby blanket because they're going to have accents in the baby room. They want to be able to take this for a boy or a girl. They want to be able to give this to them as a lifelong blanket, and I totally appreciate that. So this is going to be the Chevron baby blanket by the designer Kate. No, that's not right. By Espace Tricot, of course. So the Chevron baby blanket by Espace Tricot. This is a beautiful palette. I just think they go so well together. And yeah, so white into gray, into darker gray, into black. It's going to be beautiful. I have 2 balls of each color. So that, I think that's going to make a pretty large baby blanket. But I think I'm just going to go in order of color. So white to light gray to dark gray to black, back to white, light gray, dark gray, black. I'm going to sort of play around with the colors and maybe lay them out to see which ones have the highest contrast. Because, for example, I noticed that these two, they show up as pretty contrasting here. But when you add this black over here and the white, it sort of almost looks like this gray on gray isn't enough of a contrast. Although now that I'm looking at it, it's a pretty good contrast. Actually, I think that's just going to be beautiful. The person who I'm knitting it for has seen the pattern. They love chevrons, and so this is absolutely perfect. Totally neutral, totally easy. I think it's even a free pattern. I'm not sure, I haven't looked it up just yet, but you know, I know that I'm going to make a chevron baby blanket. It's going to be beautiful. The designer Espace Tricot, and I have 2 skeins of each: white, dove heather, cobblestone heather, and black. And this is just a worsted weight acrylic yarn. It's $1.99 each on KnitPicks. If you have not gone to knitpicks.com, please do. That is everything that I love about affordable yarn. So that's the first project that I'm going to be making in Egypt, probably, because that's going to be my long-term project. How I'm planning this out is I want to have a sweater project, I want to have an accessories project, and I want to have a baby project on at all times. So those are going to be my 3 rotating patterns that I hopefully will have anytime and all the time while I'm knitting in Egypt. So for the next one that I'm looking at, this right here is KnitPicks Comfy Worsted in the colorway Fairy Tale. And this is a 75% cotton, 25% acrylic worsted weight yarn. And this color is more of that beautiful fuchsia. And this project is going to be the Sky Boat Shawl by Judy Marples. It's a worsted weight shawl, tons of eyelets. It's a beautiful lace shawl. And I'm making it for the same woman who's getting this. So can you see maybe why I'm, you know, getting matching yarn here? So the hat's 100% acrylic. This is going to be a cotton and acrylic blend, but the colors are identical, absolutely identical. So maybe they can wear them together, or she can wear this as like a lighter weight shawl. Even though it's a worsted weight shawl, it's knit in cotton and acrylic, so it won't be nearly as heavy, and the shawl itself has tons and tons of lace and holes. It's all holey and lacy and eyelet, so it could be worn as either, you know, warm weather or cool weather, you know, knit. And so I picked up 4 skeins of these. These are each 109 yards. I'm hoping that 440 yards is going to be enough for a pretty big shawl. Worst case scenario, I will block the shit out of it and just get the most space that I can between those eyelets to get a big, big shawl. But again, this is for Rose, and when we were shopping, she pointed out this color and said she loves this color. So it gave me a really great starting point to decide what I was going to knit her. And so she will be a recipient of a beautiful shawl when I come back from Egypt. She's just gonna have to wait 8 months for it. So that's sort of why I made her this hat for her, like for her husband's birthday. Made her a hat because I don't want her to wait 8 months when her husband got something first. So that's totally not fair. Anyway, absolutely beautiful. I've used this cotton yarn before in a number of different projects, and it's pretty nice. The only problem that I have is that it sort of sheds while you're working with it. And so I definitely would recommend putting this into a washer and dryer before you gift it to anybody, because it will shed a little bit, especially the first time or so that you wash it. And while you're working with it, it comes off in your hands, it pills, you have to sort of clear itself out. Occasionally I've also sort of inhaled little cotton fibers. It's not fun to work with, but it's a really great yarn, lightweight, super affordable, and it comes in a huge variety of colors. So I think it is lovely. KnitPicks Comfy Worsted in the colorway Fairy Tale. The next beautiful KnitPicks acrylic, you know, cheap yarn that I got is this lovely bad boy here. This is KnitPicks Brava Bulky. Again, 100% acrylic. This is a bulky weight, and this color is wine. Now, this project is about to be a really special one. I'm going to be making the Latte Baby Coat by Lisa Chem. And this latte baby coat is absolutely stunning. It is a coat for a child, and the button bands are really wide, and it has sort of this herringbone, like a rickrack stitch. And it just looks insane. I was perusing in Ravelry with my mom, just looking for a couple of fun patterns. I'm like, look, I need to knit this baby thing, and what do I do? And we both just stopped and looked at this and went, that's the baby coat. So originally I put in a huge Knit Picks order, and I had to return about half of it because things just were not right. So for example, when I got all those baby blanket colors, they mixed up my order. I got the wrong colors in, so I had to send it back. And initially I had a camel color, like a basic taupe brown color for this, but that one looked more like a puke yellow. It was really bad. So I returned it and I replaced it with this wine color. This is just a burgundy red. It's not showing up true to color here compared to like this pink. No, you can't see it. Anyway, this is a true burgundy red. The colorway is wine. It's absolutely stunning. And I cannot wait to make this baby coat. I'm going to be knitting the 6 to 12 month size because, ideally, if I go away and they get pregnant and then by the time winter comes around and this baby needs a coat, they're going to be at least 6 months old. So I spoke with the person who is interested in getting pregnant, and they decided on this wine colorway, and they said, oh, I love those wooden buttons on the picture. There's wooden buttons. And she said, I want some just like that. So I picked up some fun wooden buttons at Michael's, and I think it's going to go perfectly with this. Aren't those buttons just adorable? They're like a nice sort of natural light color. I would have maybe preferred them to be a bit darker, but I'm not going to complain. They're pretty perfect, and it's exactly what my friend had asked for. I think it's going to go absolutely lovely with this, beautiful wine-colored baby coat, and I cannot wait to make this. The funny thing is, it's going to take me like maybe a month, tops, maybe a month to make this baby coat. And I just can't wait. So this is going to be one of the very first things that I knit because I can't wait to cast it on. I have 3 skeins of this bulky yarn. There are 136 yards in each skein. That's more than enough for what I need. And again, space is at a premium because all this stuff is going to go in a suitcase. Don't tell my husband. All this stuff's going in a suitcase and bringing it all to Egypt, and so I need to maximize space wherever possible. So the latte baby coat by Lisa Chen. What a great design. What a great designer. Can't wait. Awesome. So and that's it for my sort of cheap Knit Picks thing. Now I'm going to go into some of the more luxury yarns that I purchased online that I am stupid excited to knit. Most of these are in sweater quantities or shawl quantities, and I'm going to start with the one online order that is not from Knit Picks, and that is for lovely Cascade Ultra Pima Cotton. I also believe that this colorway is called Wine, but this is like a harlot red. This is scarlet letter red. This is as red as it gets, and I cannot wait to make my neon cardigan by Joji Locatelli. The one, the only Joji, in this absolutely beautiful colorway. Now I picked up 7 skeins of this Ultra Pima cotton. They are 220 yards. Why do I even look? It's Cascade. Of course they're 220 yards. So 220 yards, I believe I need 7 of them for this cardigan. And I am knitting it in cotton rather than in wool because I live in Egypt. I live in San Diego. I'm, in Michigan for the summers. I do not need a wool cardigan. Also, I've knit a cardigan out of this Cascade Ultra Pima before, and it is perfect. It doesn't stretch out the way that that wool will stretch. It is machine washable and dryable if I wanted to. Obviously, I never would. And the colors are saturated. The colors don't bleed. The dye lots are very similar. I just find that the consistency and the quality that you get with this Cascade Ultra Pima, 100% cotton yarn, it can't be matched. And for $9.50 a skein, that's pretty standard at any local yarn store or online. $9.50 to $10 is about what you're going to pay anywhere. And to get a shine, it doesn't pill very much. Mercerized, I believe it's Egyptian cotton, Egyptian Pima cotton. This is my go-to cotton yarn. So I'm actually going to show you more than just one skein because I have a bag here with 7 of them and they are just waiting for my love and attention. So, oh God, I cannot wait to wear this neon cardigan by Hohi with all my absolutely stunning red yarn. Cotton Cascade Ultra Pima. Oh, this is nuts. I am so excited. And so I did a big yarn haul and then I queued all these patterns up and I'm like, okay, I need to buy buttons. Like I have so many projects that have buttons. I have baby blankets. I have baby cardigans. I've got baby onesies. I've got a cardigan or 2 for myself. I've got all these things. I need buttons. So I went out to Michael's and I did a whole big button thing. And I picked up these sort of nice, subtly, it's a matte shiny, which I know that those two are completely contradictory, but it's an interesting, it's matte, it's almost like frosted glass. There you go. These are obviously plastic buttons, but the look of them is like frosted glass. And I think that that color works perfectly. I didn't want any contrast buttons just because you never know what you're gonna want or whatever. So I figure red is safe, red is easy, it matches the yarn perfectly. And if I decide to later on, maybe I could change the button color, but I am using these buttons with this incredible yarn. Look at the twist on that. I wanna say this is just a 2-ply cotton, but I could be wrong. It could be a 4-ply. Maybe I'll find out or I'll let you know once I start knitting it. Oh, I am so excited. And this is pretty much my favorite yarn in the world. Cascade Ultra Pima, it's a DK weight cotton. Go get it. If you've never knit with it, it is a dream. For a DK weight yarn, you can't do anything better. So that's that. For my next party trick, I am going to show you my next sweater's quantity of yarn. This I purchased from knitpicks.com. And I have 6 skeins of these bad boys, or 6 balls, I guess would be the put up on this. This is the Knit Picks City Tweed. It's an Aran heavy worsted weight yarn. And this is the colorway Lemon Curd. The yarn is 55% merino wool, 25% superfine alpaca, and 20% Donegal tweed. I actually didn't realize that there was alpaca in here. I thought it was just merino and tweed, but I absolutely love this colorway, this lemon curd. There's a nice representation. It's a very muted yellow. It's not bright at all, with these flecks of black and white tweed in the middle of it. It's got a nice little halo, and for a heavy worsted, it comes with 164 yards per 100 grams. And I picked up 6 of these for the pattern that I'm making, which is Owls by Kate Davies. You've seen this sweater. It's the one with the yoke across the top that has all these owls, and it has all the buttons that you put for the owl eyes. And so the buttons that I've purchased for this are bright red, because what's the point of having a yellow owl sweater if you're not going to have very attention-grabbing red button eyes? Am I right? So I am super stoked to be knitting with this. Again, I just got these buttons all at Michael's. You know, there's nothing fancy. I did not want to buy buttons on knitpicks.com because you can't see the size. I wasn't sure. I think these buttons are actually going to be a bit big. God, that makes them look huge. These are 5/8 of an inch, so they're not huge. I'm sorry, these are 1/2 inch. That might be big, but I'm making a pretty large size for mine. You know, I'm usually like a 2X, an extra large to a 2X, so I'm assuming that these buttons will work fine. Now, some of the projects on Ravelry, excuse me, some of the projects on Ravelry, people have gotten creative with their button eyes, and they'll do, you know, all the same color here, and then right around here they have one owl with different color eyes, like a contrast color eyes. And a lot of them have like a sparkly button for the eyes. So I figured I would do the same. And so I picked up some of these sparkly buttons. Oh, that's a perfect color representation, by the way, for the lemon curd. So I picked up a couple of these buttons. I only want to make one owl with these contrast color eyes, but I figure, you know, I love sparkles. I think they actually go pretty well together. So I'm looking forward to that. But I got a little gun shy and I was like, oh my God, what if it doesn't look good with the rhinestone eyes? Maybe it'll look crazy or whatever. So I picked up some black just in case. The nice thing with black buttons is if you don't use it for one project, you can use it for another. So there's enough baby things on my repertoire that I can, you know, use some black buttons for literally anything. And so this is my plan B. I really hope to go with plan A for that one, you know, owl with the crazy eyes. And then everyone else is going to get red. I think that is just absolutely beautiful. Even seeing it on camera right now, I'm like falling in love with this pattern. I made owly socks by the same designer, Davies, Kate Davies. Oh, jeez. I made owly socks by Kate Davies, also in a yellow yarn. And so maybe I'll have sort of a matching set to go with it. I've never worked with any yarn that's this bulky, except for maybe the yarn, the Red Heart with Love that I just knit this Graham hat out of for my friend. But this is obviously a much higher quality than Red Heart, and I think it looks nice. Ew, except for that big chunk right there coming out. Consistency issues, you know what I mean? But that's okay. So I got 6 balls of these, and I cannot wait to make my absolutely incredible Owls by Kate Davies Aran Weight sweater. In Egypt, we'll go figure, but it gets cold there. Okay, for my next trick, I decided to make a couple of different shawls, and I've been having a lot of fun planning for shawls, and also I figured that shawls are a great way to finally buy that yarn that I've been looking at on KnitPicks for years and years, but I've never found the right pattern for it. You know what I mean? And so I decided that Egypt is the time. I don't know if I'm going to be able to buy any yarn in Egypt, so I'd rather just bring it all with me and hope for the best. But I decided to buy a bunch of yarn from KnitPicks that I wanted to try, especially because my mom has asked me for something as well. But we're gonna get into that. This here is KnitPicks Galileo. This is a 50% merino wool and 50% bamboo yarn. And this is the colorway Valentine. Again, another bright red. Clearly I'm in the mood. The colorway Valentine. They had another deeper red color that was like a very deep red wine color. And I thought that was beautiful. And I was thinking to myself, like, what do I want? Do I want the bright red or the darker red? And I realized that why not just go for this? It's called Valentine. It's absolutely beautiful. And this yarn, for being 50% wool and 50% bamboo, I just think it's the shiniest, most beautiful yarn. And I have been eyeing this forever. Since I learned about KnitPicks about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, since I've learned about KnitPicks, I've been dying to knit with this Galileo yarn. So the pattern that I think I'm going to make out of this, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I want to make a French can-can. It's originally knit for like a DK weight, but this is a sport weight yarn. I think it would be beautiful, but the French can-can is, I believe it's a crescent-shaped shawl. It's got a panel of lace, a beautiful cable running around the bottom, and a little bit more lace, and it just looks stunning. So I have 4 balls of these, and they are each, I want to say 131 yards. 131 yards. So I've got like maybe 520 yards of sport weight yarn. I think I'm just going to go for a French can-can. That's like an alternate plan. If I decide to change my mind and do something else, I very much will. I don't have a sweater's quantity of this, but I know that I want to make a beautiful shawl. I will not be wearing it with my red neon, for all of you who are wondering. I'm not about the matchy, matchy, matchy. Even though these two go pretty well together, they're not, I would never wear them together. So if I'm feeling red, at least I'll have a couple of options, either my neon cardigan or maybe a French can-can. We'll see. But I have 4 balls of these, so I can't make fingerless mitts. I'm going to do something better than that. Also, this is like a luxury yarn from KnitPicks, you know, 50% bamboo, 50% merino. I'm excited to try it. And I'm wondering if it's going to felt at all or even pill. I've had superwash wools from Knit Picks that have felted. I've had alpaca that's felted. And usually when you mix it with an acrylic or a bamboo or a plant fiber, it lessens the chance that your work is going to pill. So I really hope that that's the case for this. I hope it doesn't pill, but that's one. The next one that I'm going to do is, the funny thing with this yarn, this is Knit Picks Paragon, which is a sport weight yarn as well. The mix is 50% fine merino, 25% baby alpaca, and 25% mulberry silk. I have picked up 5 skeins of each of these. This color is Kenai, and this color is Enchanted, a beautiful eggplant purple. This one's for me, this one's for my mother, and we are going to have mother-daughter matching shawls. The shawl that we are going to do is called the Stonecroft Shawl by Judy Marples. And it is incredible. That same night that I was, perusing Ravelry with my mom, I said, look, would you want a shawl for Christmas? Because I'm not going to be here for Christmas, but you guys, they are planning to visit us while we're in Egypt, maybe in February sometime. But I was like, I'd love to give you something when you guys come. And so she said, yes, absolutely. We found this pattern and it is stunning. It has tons of lace. It's got a beautiful lace motif, so more than just eyelets and yarn over sections, because it has those as well. I think it's a triangular shaped shawl. It's asymmetrical. The lace panel goes along one side of it, but then there's lace on either side. Oh my God, it was absolutely stunning. So it looks like a fun project to knit. This is pretty much, in my opinion, this is one of the most luxurious yarns that Knit Picks has to offer. Very high twist, merino, alpaca, and silk. Come on, how could I not love that? So I have 5 balls of each of these colorways to make the Stonecroft Shawl by Judy Marples. And I know I said that the baby latte sweater or coat was going to be my first knit, but this one might have to be, especially because I'm making 2 of them, one for me, one for my mom. One for my mom is definitely going to come first, obviously, just in case we're wondering. So, I want to make this and I want to make sure that it's done before I, give it to her for Christmas when they come in February. Now, at first, we chose this Kenai colorway because it is beautiful. My mom has blue eyes, she's blonde, she's a beautiful, beautiful woman, and this color is going to look gorgeous on her. I chose the purple for myself because I was like, oh, well, I generally like purple, I can wear a lot of different things with purple. It goes with everything I own. But now I'm a little sad because I love this Kenai colorway. It is a stunning teal. It's a perfect teal color. And it's absolutely perfect. This is a beautiful eggplant color, but I feel like most of my knits are either green or purple. For myself, at least, my knits are green mostly and purple. And I have one neutral thing, but all my sweaters are green and purple. All of my accessories are green or purple, some blue. But I almost wish I had stepped out of the box a little bit and maybe gotten a neutral color for myself, or this Kenai colorway for myself. No, I'm not going to want to knit the same shawl twice in the same color. So I don't think that I'm happy with my decision to get a different color, but we will see if I end up making something different. I'm not going to. I'm going to have a mommy-daughter shawl. It's going to be perfect. So that's that. Okay, the very, very last thing that I'm going to show you is sort of a spur-of-the-moment purchase that I made for myself from Knit Picks. And that is one skein of their Luminance. Ooh. Knit Picks Luminance. This is a 100% silk yarn, lace weight. The colorway is Benevolence, which is Kenai, basically. It's the exact same teal color. So when I returned that whole box of Knit Picks, I actually did not have this Paragon colorway for me. I just kept the Galileo. I thought I was going to make the same shawl but in red, Galileo. I decided to change it out for this purple in the Paragon color. But I was really sad that I didn't get any of this Kenai colorway for myself, and so I picked this up. It's just one skein of lace weight yarn, 439 yards, and I am going to be making the Mermaid Song Shawl by Susanna I.C. This is a Harry Potter inspired shawl, and it is beaded. And I finally found something to use with these beads, because I purchased these beads about a year ago in Edmonton. This is like a blue. It's not showing up super well. This is like a deep indigo blue, and these are really bright grassy green. And I purchased these forever ago, not sure what I was going to do with them. And I have 3 bags of each color, so I have plenty of beads. And I am going to make a Mermaid Song shawl. It is Harry Potter inspired because if you've read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire or seen the movies, one of the clues was in an egg that, you had to find a way to open this egg. Anyway, it's based on the 4th book and/or movie of Harry Potter, and it's a beautiful, stunning shawl. It's got really nice lace motifs, and I figure that this is going to be an heirloom quality project, so I'm using 100% silk yarn. This is going to be for myself and nobody else, and I cannot wait to cast it on. I hope that the beads won't be too heavy, because last time I was in Egypt, I made a lace weight cowl for myself, and I had beads on it. It was called Beaded Cowl, and the beads really sunk the yarn down. And so, especially with a lace weight yarn, this is 100 grams. This is 50 grams, and one of these packages of beads is probably 100 grams at least. And so, I don't want it to be too heavy. I'll have to use the beads sparingly, but I'm definitely excited to make this in my beautiful Kenai colorway. So I can't wait to wear it, can't wait to make it, and I will finally have something teal in my wardrobe because I don't have that many teal things. Okay, that's my yarn haul. My plan for Egypt is to basically get a bunch of Ziploc bags, pack as many balls of yarn as I can in them, sit on the bag, expel as much air as possible, and kind of shrink wrap them down. I do not want a whole suitcase of yarn, and just looking around right now, I feel like this is almost the whole size of like a carry-on suitcase, just full of yarn. I don't want to go there and have them ask questions, why do you have all this yarn? I don't want to go there and have to forego packing clothes, or heaven forbid, forego buying souvenirs while I'm in Egypt just because I have too much yarn. So I'm hoping that I won't have to thin the herd out a little bit. I'm hoping to knit a bunch of things that I can send with my parents when they come to visit me. So if they can send it home with me, that's even better, because then I'll have more room for souvenirs. I'll have more room to take things, and we're gonna figure it out as we go along. I do not want to come back with a bunch of skeins of yarn. I want to knit everything that I have. I want to knit through my stash so that when I come back, maybe even I'm hoping that I can actually find a yarn store in Egypt. Think Egyptian cotton, like I would love to have a bunch of new things that I purchased from Egypt so that I can knit through this stash. This looks like more than a year's worth of yarn to me, but I'm hoping that it won't be, and I'm hoping that this did not just surpass my life expectancy. Definitely not. But that is the yarn haul. My husband and I are planning to go to Egypt November 1st, 2017. Today is October 8th or something, and so we are chomping at the bit to go. I have all my yarn purchased. I'm trying not to cast on all these projects because I want to cast them on while we're in Egypt, but it's hard to say no. So I might cast on like some fingerless mitts, just like an accessory here or there, just while we're doing stuff before we go to Egypt. So I hope you've enjoyed this yarn haul video. I mentioned before that I might be interested to do little tiny 5-minute videos, little yarn reviews of, hey, what do I think of Cascade North Shore, acrylic yarn? What are some yarn reviews for, this big honking guy right here, this, this Adventure Yarns? I don't know. So I'm thinking about it. Let me know if that'd be something you'd be interested in, or I'm just going to pop up a video. You don't have to watch it. I would not consider it part of my podcast, so don't you worry about that. I do plan to podcast while I'm in Egypt. As long as I'm knitting, I'm podcasting. When I'm not knitting, I'm not podcasting. So that's my rationale with all of that. Anyway, wish me luck with Egypt. Wish me luck that the border guards don't seize all my yarn and say that I'm going to be selling it while I'm there or anything, heaven forbid. And, I will definitely be seeing you guys a couple more times before I go to Egypt. All right, cheers, happy knitting, ma salama, bye.